back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are so grateful that you can be here today, and we are very excited to have Dr. Albertson with us today. She is the Midlife Whisperer. She's an yes, and she is a nutrition psychologist, national board certified health and wellness coach, Reiki master, and mindful self-compassion teacher. With over 30 years of experience in counseling, coaching, and holistic healing, she helps women find the energy, confidence, and clarity to rock midlife. A best-selling award-winning author and sought-after speaker, Dr. Ellen is a recognized expert in women's health and well-being. She serves on the National Menopause Foundation's medical board and has been featured on major media platforms. Her latest book, Rock Your Midlife, guides women through a transformative seven-step journey to create a joyful, fulfilling next chapter. She lives in Costa Rica and on the Champlain Islands of Vermont with her high-tech raw food loving partner, Ken, and their tree climbing border collie, Rosie. So, welcome, Dr. Ellen. We're really excited for you to be on the podcast with us today.
Well, thanks for having me on, and it's just so great to be part of your community.
Thank you.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about your journey and new things that are happening? Because I know that you've got some new things happening as well that you wanted to share with our followers.
Sure. Well, my journey is so much about connecting science and spirituality and also getting out of the spiritual closet. I think, like many of us seekers, as a kid, I was very attuned to source, very interested in spirituality. It was natural. You had imaginary friends and saw fairies, and that was a part of your life. And then also very interested in mythology. And then, I had to get really serious in my life. I don't know if it happened around 8, 9, or 10, but it's kind of like I just decided to shut the door on my spirituality. I think I grew up in a family that was very scientific. My dad was a scientist. Everybody was interested in academics. And I became very, very serious and really very studious, not a lot of fun. And that continued for quite a long time. But then I would dabble, right? So I would, have more Oracle decks that I wanted to admit. I started doing Reiki and eventually became a Reiki master and was starting doing teaching. Of course, did yoga and meditated and did various things, but was still a little, scared to actually say that I'm part of the Woo Club, right? Which is so interesting now because science and spirituality are coming together. We're starting to be able to have tools and ways of understanding why we feel the way that we do, where things are coming from. So I think a big shift for me was right around 50, and I'm known as the midlife wisher. I've always worked with women at midlife, but I think that 50 period when you're looking at 50 is really a huge time of change. And what happened to me was so interesting. I was going back for my PhD in psychology. And I was looking for a dissertation topic, and I wanted to do something to help women with negative body image. The media tells women that they have to look a certain way, which is generally, thin and young and be a certain way. And of course, if you're not that way, then you're not okay. And women feel like their looks are the most important thing about them. So it's very damaging what the media does. And I wanted to create an intervention that would really help women to feel better about their bodies themselves. And my dissertation chair was like, Ellen, have you thought about meditation? And I was like, I didn't really go to get my PhD to teach meditation, but I decided to um, follow her lead. And I started kind of Googling people who were interested in meditation and psychology. And this led me to Chris Germer and Kristen Neff, who are the pioneers in this area of self-compassion. And so I ended up doing my dissertation and my research on self-compassion and body image in women. And this kind of reopened this whole door of meditation and spirituality and yoga. And so started moving in that direction. And then, started gradually incorporating more spirituality, coming more and more out of the closet, feeling very safer. And I think the self-compassion piece really started to transform everything for me because I stopped doing things that insulted my soul and I started to do the things that were truly in my best interest and really attract those things. So the making self-compassion my superpower was kind of the first step. And then more recently, really starting to study human design. I don't know if you know what human design is, but it's, a combination of astrology, I Ching, the Kabbalah, and the chakra system, and really understanding my own design and also just feeling like, oh, wow, now I've got these really concrete tools So now I really love combining the spirituality and the science, really having soul and science, real methods. And I'm also very involved with the Center for Nutrition Psychology, which is again looking at this relationship between kind of what you eat and your diet and how that impacts how you feel mentally and how you feel mentally impacts your diet. But we're really seeing this, it's this holistic way of looking at things. So I think that now I'm fully out of the closet, really enjoying my life to the fullest. I would say some other things that happened to me, which really helped me to embrace my whole self holistically, is, as I was going through that rocky midlife time, not only was I going through menopause and empty nest, but I went through divorce, and then I went blind. My retina detached 3 times in my right eye, which is my stronger eye, and that was a real kind of come to God moment, right? And then 3 years ago, I got breast cancer.
Oh,
Oh my
That was
goodness.
another piece that really was like, okay, what's going on here? And I think for me, the breast cancer piece was really, it forced me to really take some time off and to really dive deeper into what is my purpose, what is my passion, what am I here for, and also what do I need to do to stay in remission. And so I'm a Leo rising, and it's conjunct, my ascendant is conjunct my north node. So I have this voracious appetite to share and be out there, but to figure out how I could share in a way that was more about how do I serve and having my joy coming from that place of service instead of this place of needing to be in front of people on stages. So it's been a lot of transformation, particularly over the last 5 years. I've got a great new man in my life. I get to live in Costa Rica and beautiful Vermont. We grow all of our food. So I really incorporate a tremendous amount of health and well-being, because your body's really like that's your temple. It's where you get to live. And of course, we know the foods you eat and don't eat and how you take care of yourself has a tremendous impact on how aligned you are spiritually and how you can really listen and hear source. So it's kind of what I do now is really just help women meet women where they're at midlife. I kind of look at midlife as that this point in time where you realize that there is more time behind you than in front of you, perhaps. And it's kind of this point where, you realize you're running out of time, and we all have things to do. So you had sort of alluded to what's new with me. I've got a new method that I'm super excited about that's kind of just in the blender right now. It's called the dragonflying method. And I'm really utilizing dragonflies as kind of my new metaphor for midlife and for where we are as a collective. What happens with a dragonfly versus a butterfly is so fascinating. They start as this nymph stage, and they spend about 3 years in the water. They're fierce predators. And then one evening, the stroke of midnight, they climb up a stalk of grass and they split open and they expand their thorax and their wings, and they become the dragonfly. So I'm really looking at this dragonfly as this new method of transformation. I like to say that girls want to be butterflies, women want to be dragonflies. And it coincides with Richard Rudd is, of course, the author of the Gene Keys, and he talks about Gene Key 55, which is about moving from victimization to freedom, and he uses the dragonfly as his metaphor. And then we're also preparing in human design for this cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is happening in 2027. So I'm kind of helping women to feel good now and really be this agent of change that needs to happen for where the collective is going moving forward.
I love that. I love just that the symbolism with it, like being in the water like that, almost like being in the womb and then, emerging out and then just becoming, you know, free and transforming and, taking on life. I really love that. When you were talking about it, I could just sort of visualize that. I'm like, oh, that's really a cool way to think of it.
Yeah, and they're amazing creatures, right? They're iridescent and they're
are.
kind of transparent, and they've got these amazing eyes that see in almost every direction. And of course, they're part of the fairy realm too. So there's all of this like magic. It's also really about learning how to work productively with your emotions. Right now, I'm working with a lot of women, and I'm actually creating a whole freedom from anxiety kit. A lot of us are feeling really anxious right now,
Mhm.
because of what's going on in the world. And the dragon flying method is all about alchemizing your emotions, learning how to work productively with things like fear and anxiety, rumination, because when you're in that place, you're really in this fight and flight zone where your amygdala, your primitive lizard brain is taking over, and you can't connect with source, you can't connect with your frontal cortex, your mammalian brain, and you're just kind of stuck in fear. And of course, we all want to move into love rather than fear. And so that's a big piece of it too, is learning how to regulate your emotions.
Yeah. So how would you suggest to people then, where would they start off if they're in that fear-based kind of living? Is there somewhere that they should start off to move themselves out of that?
Absolutely. Well, the thing about anxiety, and this was a big turning point for me of learning how to deal with my own chronic anxiety, is first realizing it's totally normal. Like if you're a human being, your anxiety is there to protect you from danger. The problem is that the anxiety is always in some imagined future. So it really takes you out of the present moment. So if you want to deal with it, the key thing is you have to deal with your mind and your body, because what happens is, you start to feel anxious in your body, right? So maybe your throat closes up, you might feel tightness around your heart or your belly. And so your body then signals your brain reinterprets this as fear, anxiety, and then your body feels into that fear, anxiety. You stay in this loop. So what you have to do is you have to address both your brain and your body. So you feel the emotion in your body, you feel it, you heal it. First, you name it, you tame it. So just say, hello, this is fear, this is anxiety, this is worry. What that does is it takes it from that primitive lizard part of your brain that wants you to sort of shut down and shrink in fear. Then when you feel it, you feel it in your body. You notice, oh, wow, where am I feeling this? And then you start to use spiritual tools. I'm sure you share plenty of them on the show. I share in this new kit that I'm creating, which is it's absolutely free. I'm just creating it for the collective to help people with anxiety. Things like self-compassion. Oh, wow, I'm noticing I'm in fear right now. What do I need right now? Noting fear is normal, and talking to myself like a good friend. So that's sort of using self-compassion. Breath work is super powerful. So when you breathe more deeply, when you make the exhalation longer than the inhalation, you calm down that fight and flight sympathetic nervous system, and you power up the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So breath work is awesome. And then I also use heart math technique, which is really about breathing into your heart, just locating the area of your heart, breathing into your heart a little slower and deeper than usual, finding a steady rhythm that's comfortable. So again, bringing it from your brain into your heart. Your heart is really the brain of your soul. And so when you can take it away from that sort of, I'm terrified of the future, what's going on, into the present moment, and then reach this timeless place where your soul lives in your heart. You make this a habit, then you realize, okay, I can deal with my anxiety. I think for me, so much about before I sort of realized the sort of body mind connection with anxiety was about a lot of spiritual bypassing. Like if I meditate more, if I do more yoga, if I go on that retreat, and that helped temporarily. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with any of those methods, but I think a lot of us sometimes we want to jump over the anxiety. I shouldn't be feeling this way when it's just us being human. Or I would get into addiction, maybe have a drink, have a glass of wine, or watch Netflix, or maybe, eat some chocolate, right? And so distracting myself. And now I look at it head on. I just say, okay, what is anxiety showing me right now? How do I work more productively with it? So it's really about making it a habit. And it's so important to do right now, because I'm sure those of you who are listening, we all have so many gifts to share, and the world needs your light and love. But if you're in anxiety and fear, you're not going to be of use to the people who need you, including yourself.
Exactly. And I think, it's so funny because I even have noticed that with myself lately is like how many times all of a sudden I take this big breath because I'm like, oh, I was like holding my breath.
It's like,
What, like,
why?
because you're just kind of going and we need that breath that's so important. And I know, been in a couple of situations with like my stepdaughter and my granddaughter and stuff, and they're in this fear and anxiety. And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk this out. Well, my stepdaughter actually made her do the lion's breath from yoga. And then she
Uh-huh.
laughed. but it released that fear, right? Like it's like, okay, we gotta breathe. We gotta just, you gotta get present to now. So
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying with that.
Yeah, we have so many tools and I think we forget to use them. I mean, I've been getting the message a lot for my guides, ground, ground, ground. So going outside barefoot and hugging a tree or taking Epsom salts bath or just, having a real grounding meal, just being in this, we're divine and we're animals. So being in that animal body of just like, okay, I'm grounded now. Because I think so often we can get really caught up in our heads up here. Like we've got our crown chakras way open and our mind is going, 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 and we forget like, oh, I need to like get that first chakra grounded and focused.
Yeah, exactly. I was just actually saying that before we popped on here. So I've been taking this course and it's the quantum healing hypnosis technique. And so it's very, you're here all the time. And then I was like, oh, I just got a massive headache for 2 days because you're so in the crown chakra and I'm not grounding myself down that I had to remind myself, okay, you know what? I need to do something else. So yesterday I did some meditation with a friend of mine and it was so good because I released and came back down. The headache went away. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's totally what I need.
Yeah, it's great. I've also find using my hands. Like I just started picking up the hand pan, which is kind of like a steel drum, and I'm just like hitting it and the music, really just finding something that you turn your brain off.
Yeah.
Because I think, you look at the media, you get pulled in, your mind is going a million miles a minute, or like you said, you're doing a course and way up in your crown chakra, and we need to bring it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there some grounding foods then that people could use to help them with this as well, to bring them back down?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Root vegetables are great. So anything that grows in the ground, of course, gardening is really, really good. Your whole food plant-based diet is the way to go. I mean, if you're eating a lot of sugar, a lot of caffeine, these foods that are very kind of out on the spectrum really take you out, do the opposite. So staying away from, processed foods, from sugar, a lot of caffeine, certainly alcohol, and then having more grounded foods. So things like roasted root vegetables. Like last night I made a beautiful roasted vegetables with sweet potatoes and regular potatoes and carrots and celery, these sort of root vegetables. But I think when I work with people with nutrition, it's really finding what works well in your body. I think nuts are also really good things, with healthy calories, healthy fats. So the diet is certainly a very great way to do it. And also how you eat is really important. So when I work with people and I'm starting to incorporate the human design, taking a look at the variables which determine like how do you eat. Like my partner does really well like when he's eating on the run. Like that makes him feel grounded and centered. For me, I'm supposed to just clear everything away and just sit and eat. So also how you eat and also not just food, but like what are you consuming? I have, clients that get anxious and they're consuming media, violent media or very stimulating media. So what kind of media are you consuming? Not just food, but what's everything that you're consuming and noticing what helps me to feel calm and grounded and centered and what kind of makes me anxious and all over the map.
Right. I don't know, I've been gardening most of the weekend, hands in the dirt,
Yeah.
but I was full of energy, just full of energy after being there. And it just felt really, really good. By the time I went to bed, I was exhausted. It wasn't sleeping, it was gone. But it
Yeah, yeah,
was
and
a
of
good
course, water is
feeling.
awesome.
And
Really important to drink water. We can actually get and not go too long without eating because we can get anxious when we're hungry and when we're dehydrated. So the body's sending us signals all the time. What's interesting is that 80% is from the body to the brain. We think that the brain is like the mind is everything, and only 20% is your mind to your body. So your body is always using all of its senses to feel things, and then your brain's interpreting them. So it's really important to keep your body grounded and to, look at what it is that you're taking in.
I agree with that so much because like I'm actually not on my phone very much anymore. Like a little bit of social media because I have to be for
this,
our podcast and things like that, and
and she does all the hard work.
a little bit of interest, right? But I don't find myself as drawn in. And then it's almost like if I scroll up and I see, one thing that's really negative, I'm just like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah, not
Like,
in there.
I'm not interested in that, right? I'd rather go read a good book or go outside for a walk or do those kind of things. But I also find, it's interesting that you say that because, yes, my body is reacting different to things now. And I even find with food and things like that, I'll be having something and my body will like instantly react and I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's not in my diet anymore, right? On we go.
Darn it. It's good for us the more we listen. I find that the more I'm mature, my body tells me you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And I'm always telling my partner, you need more water. That's what you need. Instead of having a can of pop, drink some water and it'll make you feel so much better. Oh no, it's okay. So they call me the water queen, so that's all right. I'm good with that.
Well, you were really understanding the microbiome. And I think that's interesting when you think about this um, gate 55 mutation that they're predicting happening, in 2027 with the sleeping phoenix. It's happening in the solar plexus. It's happening in that vagus nerve in the microbiome. This is kind of how and if for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, the microbiome is all of the microorganisms that live in your body. They're not of you, but they're in you. And researchers are really looking into the connection between, what's a healthy microbiome and how does that impact how you're feeling and how your mental health is. And it's just mind-boggling how much we're realizing about that and realizing things like soda pop and processed foods, and probably hear a lot about sort of these microplastics and hormone interrupters. All of that stuff is really wreaking havoc in your system. So if you want to be spiritually in tune and you want to feel good physically and be joyful, it's really important to make sure that you're taking care of your body, your physical home. And it's all happening in your microbiome. That's why gardening is awesome. That's like one of the best things that you can do for your microbiome, because you're actually in the dirt. And so you're taking in those microorganisms into your own body and integrating with your own environment.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was a good experience all weekend, and I'll be doing it again, so that's okay too.
I think it quiets your mind down too, because I find when you're doing things like gardening or something like that, where you're using your hands and you're into nature that way, it quiets your mind down because you're so focused on what you're doing. You don't really realize that you've taken sort of that fear and anxiety and worry and sort of stuck them on a shelf for a little bit and just are really in the peace and with your source and all of it, right? It's just a whole, all the way around a good thing.
It is. You're also
Yeah,
balancing. You're getting color put in there too because you're in the garden. So you're really balancing things out as you're displaying them and that kind of thing. So you really do get into a really nice feeling with it. Oh, that looks sharp.
yeah, you're very present. And I think when I ask my
Very
followers,
present.
what does anxiety keep you from doing, being, experiencing? Across the board, they said being present, which I found really interesting. I wasn't thinking that was what they were going to say, but when you're anxious, it's all about this imagined future. It's like things that aren't necessarily going to happen, but it takes you away from the present moment, which is where your power is. And that's why, again, the gardening or playing music, doing things where you can be totally present really can help you to reduce the anxiety and just to show up and enjoy your life and manifest like crazy. Because if we're manifesting in the present moment. If we're anxious, we're just going to manifest more of those things that make us anxious. If we are present and we're raising our vibration and into more of the vibration of joy and love, then we're going to start to see more things and attract more things that bring more joy and love and well-being into our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you. We're like, that allows our light to shine out more. And we all do have that light within us. So, being that present with ourselves really does help open that up so much for people. And, you do get rid of the worry if you're living in the present, because I think worry and fear are really a futuristic thing that's happening, right? We're worrying, we're fearful about something that may or may not happen that we probably don't have control over in most situations.
Yeah, and it is, but the thing is that it's normal. That's something I really learned from self-compassion is these three elements of self-compassion, which is being kind to yourself rather than critical, this common humanity that everybody worries, everybody ruminates. And then the mindfulness piece, but with the common humanity piece, the rumination, which is a normal part of being human, our brain's trying to figure it out. We think that if I just worry and think about this constantly, I will figure it out. But what it does is it digs you deeper, from a spiritual perspective. You're in that worry vibration. And so you can't attract anything other than more worry in your life. It's kind of, I don't know where you guys are, but in Vermont, we have mud season. It's like you're gutting the tire and you think like if I just gutting the gas, right? If I just step on the gas more, I'll get out of the mud. And what ends up happening is you get in deeper and deeper and deeper and you can't get out. So you need to, I think that's why your podcast is awesome of giving people really practical tools that they can remember to use when they're stuck in that place of fear and worry.
Yeah. And I love how you talked about talking to yourself or talking to wherever you're hurting in your body and having that conversation because I think that will bring us more in tune with ourselves to be able to figure out, why am I having this, emotional stuff or why is my arm hurting? And sometimes it's so crazy the way that our body reacts to our emotions. And when you're talking to it, you're really starting to pay attention, I think.
Yeah.
So not saying it won't happen again, but at least we're becoming more aware.
Yeah, and I love what you said in your May prediction for the month about being grateful for your body. I used that today. I was listening and I was like, what a great idea to say, because my lower back's been bothering me a little bit. I'm like, I thank my spine for holding me up for so many years and allowing me to do all of the move in all of these directions. When we thank our body, when we really not criticize it, but feel into our body, we heal. That's that sort of feel it, you heal it. I mean, we know things like heart disease is like there's that heartache there, right? And even like breast cancer, there's a link between having emotional issues and developing various cancers. The body, I always say, because now I'm really trying to stay in remission the rest of my life, is that cancer can't live in a high vibrational place. If you're super high vibe, if you're taking in high vibe foods, if you're in joy, you're really keeping your cells and everything moving in a very, very quick pace and you stay well.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And it's hard. Like it's a hard practice to be grateful because let me tell you, I've been really trying. And so, whatever, right? You're extra weight, you're this, you're that. And it's like, instead of being in the mirror being like, oh, my extra weight, this is terrible. It's like, okay, I love my extra weight. It's protecting me. But okay, what can I open up that I don't need to feel as protected anymore that it will fall away? But thank you for protecting me and thank you for being there for me and just moving forward in that way. But it is hard sometimes to, or like, you have cancer, you have something and it's very, very hard, I think, for people to find that gratefulness. So I think that's where we reach out to community and be able to say, hey, you know what, I need some help here. Can
Yeah,
somebody?
reaching out to healers who
Yeah.
can help you to see that. But I love that you recognize that because I have worked with women in weight for, I've been a dietitian for 31 years and really realizing that people do hold on to weight as a way of protection. And when they feel safe and when they feel ready to transform, it starts to come off. But it really is so much about that safety piece because your body wants to keep you safe, wants to keep you alive. And sometimes people need that extra uh, buffer in order to feel secure and safe and protected from the outside world. But the more we can love ourselves and feel safe and come into loving our body exactly as it is, then we can change. Is that wonderful quote by Carl Rogers, when I accept things as they are, then I can really change. When we accept ourselves instead of saying, when I'm X, Y, and Z, then I'll love myself. When I'm X, Y, and Z, I will do all of these things. But I'm working a lot with this dragonfly method of really in visualizing the future you. Like, so you're thinking about, okay, I'm in the nymph right now. I'm stuck in my emotions underwater. I've never seen the light of day and been out in the sunlight, but I can visualize what is my dragonfly future self. And then how do I show up as that dragonfly future self today? Not when everything's changed. Because I think that this is again something Richard Rudd says is that, joy is a cause, not an effect. When I'm in joy, then I'm good, right? Like you could be in joy regardless of where you're at. Like you can get into that emotion of joy or love and transform and feel that, because we want the feeling. We think, well, when I have that stuff, when I'm at that place, then I'll feel good about myself. But I realize, particularly with my work with self-compassion, that you have to feel good about yourself now. I was always at this place, like when I have that degree, when I get that best-selling book, when I have the right partner, when I have all of this stuff, then I'll be happy. But you got to be happy and joyful now, and not when some things are different. And then you start to I mean, I could never in a million years imagine that my life would be this rich and beautiful. Like when my man showed up on our first date with 2 dozen roses and a cooler filled with produce he had grown, I was thinking in my back of my head, initially I wanted to join a community supported agriculture, eat more organic, and this guy shows up who's this like incredible gardener. Like he creates enough food for our 32 blueberry bushes he put in last year. It's
Busy.
amazing. But the universe will send you that, but you have to match your vibration. If you're not feeling in joy, if you're feeling fear and worry and not feeling good about yourself, then you're gonna attract bubkas, right? But if you're feeling great about yourself and you're working on that, then you're going to start to attract all of these beautiful things in your life that are going to be in alignment with your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agree with that. It's uncanny the way that, we do manifest these things into our life when we start to raise our vibration higher. And I love your dragonfly concept, because I was thinking as you were talking there, I was thinking, if you were sort of feeling stuck, maybe even just visualizing that dragon flying, transforming and putting their iridescent wings
Wings,
out
so
there, and
beautiful.
just how beautiful they are and just how much they can transform and move forward. I think, like just reflecting on that in our minds would really help to calm us and really help us manifest some
Yeah.
different things. So I just got that when you were talking.
Yeah, they are truly
Message.
amazing creatures.
Yeah, no, I think it's beautiful, because I think there will be a lot of important information around that. And I, correct me if I'm wrong, but can they not just like fly still in the air?
Yeah,
They
and they
can
go
stop.
backwards
Yeah,
too.
they're
Yeah.
like they can stop still in air. They actually have sex in air. They're the most one of the actually most successful predators. They capture like 90-95% of anything that they go for. So I think it is a really, really beautiful metaphor. And I love that you have that sense of like just visualizing that dragonfly energy, or if it's a spirit animal for you, or maybe you want to make it a spirit animal. You're listening to
Yeah.
this going, wow, I want to like investigate dragonflies more. And I know I live across the street from Lake Champlain, so we have lots of dragonflies, coming out in the summer, and they're absolutely amazing, amazing creatures.
Yeah, and I can totally understand your concept, I think, behind it, because just in that, right? It's like sometimes we need to stand still, sometimes we need to move forward, sometimes we need to even be in, I'm going to say attack mode, but I just think that's about getting that action in there more so than attacking people or
Well,
things.
I think about also, what are the blocks that we need to consume? We need to alchemize, transmute in our lives. And a lot of the work that I'm doing now with my clients, I've found working with their human design and their gene keys, along with a little bit of astrology, has been really, really powerful. I know for me, when I realized I was a generator, I was realizing I'm so frustrated. So if generators are supposed to feel satisfied, not frustrated. And so I kind of took everything off my plate and just started to wait to respond to things that really lit me up. So now, because there are 3,000 different kinds of dragonflies. So you got to figure out what kind of dragonfly am I? But then we have all of these tools, whether you're, using something like Akashic Records to understand, your soul, or you're using a human design or a gene keys or astrology or oracle cards to really delve deep and understand, who am I? Like, what is my purpose? And how do I use especially with the human design, how do I use my authority, and my strategy in order to move forward? And that's something I'm going to really incorporate into this dragonfly method of understanding. There are 4 different types in human design: generators, manifestors, reflectors, and projectors. And each has a different strategy. And then there's different kinds of authority. But when you understand your authority and your strategy, you can figure out, okay, as a dragonfly, how do I move forward, right?
Yeah.
What's my speed? What's my lane? And then just appreciating all of our differences, that everybody is, a divine fractile. We're all part of the same species, the same, divinity. So I'm digging the metaphor.
I love it. And so when will this be out for everybody to look into more?
Well, people can contact me. You can go to my website, themidlifewhisperer.com. If you're like curious about this, I'm just starting to alchemize it and figure out what it all means. I mean, I'm hoping to have a book out. I'll put it out there. I'm going to have a book out January of 2027. So that's kind of my goal, to find a publisher to get a book about this dragon flying method that I'm starting to utilize with myself and my clients. I do have my free Alchemize Your Anxiety freebie is out now. So turning your, anxiety into more peace and calm. So people can start using that right away. But it's a work in progress.
Perfect. Well, I love that you put that date on there, because I think that's so important for us too sometimes, is right, to give ourselves sort of that
Little
end point,
boost.
that
Yeah.
marker point
Yeah.
where we're just like, this is when we're going to do it by. And then also I think the universe listens to that and says, oh, January 2027. Oh, okay. Well, let's line that up for you then, right?
We work
So
at that.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you are on your path, and you're out of that self-loathing and into the self-love, feeling worthy, because feeling worthy is so important for manifesting. Then the universe just, it's like breadcrumbs. And in human design, they talk about this idea of being on passenger consciousness, where you're kind of like, in this limo, you're in this car, and the universe is driving the car, and you're sort of sitting back. Of course, you're doing things, but I'm finding that since I took about 8 months off and kind of am re-entering with my brand and my work, that things are just flowing with so much more ease. Because like, the universe wants you to be happy, it wants things to be easy, and not to be in this place of anxiety, stress, and tension.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I very much look forward to your book in January 2027. Then
Yes.
hopefully you'll come back on and we can share your book with everybody, and more of the methods as you're creating this, and getting more practice with it and getting it out there with people. So I feel like there's something else coming right after that, but that's just I feel
You're not
I
at the
just
end of where you're going.
yeah, I think there's so much more for where you are, and I just love, how you say this to the people, right? Like,
Right.
we're just enjoying it so much that you just have this energy that you want everybody to be happy, and I think that's
Exactly.
such a wonderful message. So, can you tell everybody where they can find you at themidlightwhisper.com?
That's right. You could just Google the Midlife Whisperer. I'm the only midlife whisperer in on the universe, or the planet. So it's the midlifewhisper.com, or you could Google Dr. Ellen Albertson. I have a Instagram, a YouTube channel, website. My book is Rock Your Midlife. So that also is 7 steps to transform yourself and make your next chapter your best chapter. If you are struggling with anxiety, midlife, menopause, any of the things, your weight, your self-worth, really want to transform body, mind, heart, spirit, relationships. I've been working with midlife women for 31 years, and I would be happy to have a conversation and see how I can support you. And we're
Yes.
all here to support each other. I think midlife is it's such an exciting time. We're talking about menopause now. Midlife women are coming out and, and being proud of who we are. And we're really, we're wise, right? We're here to educate our kids, our grandkids, We are not going to let the universe, the people tell us that we are no longer worthy. I think we have so much wisdom to share. So if you're wherever you're at in life, go out and do that thing that you were meant to do.
Yes.
100%.
Good message.
Yes, I think it is. So if you did have a final word though to everybody that's following us, what would your message be to everybody?
Make self-compassion your superpower. Love yourself. And when you love yourself, you stop doing the things that insult your soul and you start attracting what is truly in your best interest. I mean, you are a piece of the divine, right? And you deserve to be happy. But that self-love piece is so important. And the self-compassion, the self-love, it's a muscle. We go to the gym to, build our biceps, right? But we go to the self-compassion gym by being kind to ourselves rather than judgmental, by talking to ourselves the way we would a good friend, understanding common humanity, that we all make mistakes. We are imperfect beings, and being mindful when we are stressed and struggling. I think a lot of us are these days about everything that's going on in the world. And
Yes.
stop, and instead of plowing forward and trying to fix it, or grabbing some like caffeine and chocolate or whatever you do, stop and you ask yourself, what do I need right now? And that might just be, I need to go hug a tree.
Yeah, could be.
Well, we love that. I think that's a great message to bring forward to
It is a
everybody.
really good message. Yes, it is. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yes, definitely. And your book is the next on my to be read list.
Yes.
So because it excites me that, right, there's just all this stuff that we can encompass out there at the middle of our life now. And why? Because I
Why
think a lot
not?
of people, you get to be 50 or up and you're kind of like, ugh, is there anything else for me? Is this the end of the road? And I love that you're bringing this message that says, no, there's way more. And, it doesn't matter how old you
No, it
are.
doesn't. No,
So,
age has got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and it
It really
also,
doesn't.
whatever you're at, you like decide, what, I just love to bake cupcakes and I'm going to bake cupcakes and I'm going to give away cupcakes. Or you might decide, I'm going to lead some kind of protest and or I'm going to write a book or I'm going to start a podcast, whatever it is. It's yours, and we're each here to be creative beings to make a difference in the world. And the more women at midlife who show up, the more we give other women permission to do the same. So that's a big part of my mission too, is just show how much fun midlife is. I've not had so much fun as an adult, and it's just a blast.
that is so wonderful. Well, we are so thankful and grateful to you for coming on our podcast with us and sharing your beautiful messages to everybody. So thank you so much for being
Yes,
with
very
us
much
today.
so. Very much
My
so.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. And everybody else, we will see you the next time.
You bet.